Have you been thinking about beadlocks for your build, but aren't sure how difficult they are to put together? Stick around and I'll show you how I like to do them. So beadlocks, they are a bit time consuming to put together, but they're really not that difficult to do. First couple things I always want to do is I want to get a good new valve stem in there. That way I know that thing's, if it's worn out, I'm not using a worn out valve stem. This tool right here, it's a valve stem install tool. I've put them in without these things. And it can be done, but it's a pain. This thing, I want to say it's 12 or 13 bucks on Amazon. Well worth it. And it's super simple. You just feed the valve stem in from the backside. You thread this down onto the stem. And you've got this rubber piece right here, which is real nice on your aluminum wheel so it doesn't trash it. You just put it back there and it's like a lever. So you just push it on the back end. Another thing I'm going to put in is I've got these Apex Rapid Precision valves. Basically, they're a quick deflator, and I like using quick deflators. On big tires, it just goes so much quicker. I've used power tank monster valves on multiple sets of wheels and always had real good luck with them. But this time, I just figured I'd give these things a shot and see what they're like. And then, of course, I want to put my TPMS sensor back on there. I went through the effort of pulling them out of the stock wheels so that I can keep the function on the aftermarket wheels and tires. You can see there's kind of like a sharp edge down the center of the sidewall lugs on that side, and on the other side it's got that flat edge. So I'm actually going to do the flat edge. That's just the one that I prefer, but again, just take your time and pay attention to what the wheel looks like and make sure that you get them all matching, or what the tire looks like. Now when you're getting ready to mount the tire onto the wheel, there's a couple things you want to pay attention to. This is one area that you can make it a whole lot harder on yourself than it needs to be, but if you pay attention to this, it makes it pretty easy. So on the wheel, you can see right here, it's not flat all the way down. Let's throw it up at an angle so you can see. See, so it's not flat, there's actually some grooves. So what I'm going to do is the outside, or the edge of the bead that's closest to me, I'm going to make sure that it's in this groove right here. And what that does is we're dealing with a circle. So if we put that right there on the tightest point, on that narrowest point there, it's going to allow this opposite section to stretch as far as possible to get as far up and over. If you don't put that there and you put it on the thicker section, the outer section, then you're trying to fit that circle over a tight circle. So just kind of pay attention, get that part right there, right down in there, and it just flops on. Not quite flops on, but I'll show you. Little soapy water on the inner bead. And then, like I said, get that bead right there in that narrow part of the wheel. And just kind of take your time. Alright. So it's right there. And just climb on it. And it drops right down. Now, because I like to balance my tire with balancing beads, I want to make sure that I throw those in and that I don't forget. So I've got these pre-measured. On these tires, I'm doing 14.5 ounces. That's what they recommend. Next up, just like in the other tire and wheel video that I did for you guys, I like to put the tire and wheel onto a bucket. And again, just kind of set the bucket inside the wheel, start laying it down, and lift it up here. So with tightening all these bolts, it's going to make it a little bit easier on your back. But when we go to seat the bead too, it's actually going to help it seat, because the weight of the tire is pushing down on that backside bead. So it's going to help it to seal up when we go to put air in it. Next up, you can see right here this alignment ring here. So I want the bead of the tire to be centered on that. And what that's going to do is it's just going to help the tire to be centered on there, so it's going to balance it out a little bit better. So some tires and wheels have super tight tolerances, and it's hard to get the inner bead of the wheel onto that centering ring. You can see, let's see, I'm on the ring all the way to here, but this section isn't yet. So super simple fix. Grab your dead blow hammer, if you've got one, and just kind of work your way around. And you can see that pulls it back, basically just hitting on it pulls it back just enough so that it pulls it out to that bead. So for me, I always like to try and make stuff align as much as possible. So on all these tires, I've kind of got my apex valve aligned with the N on the Nitto for the tires. So those kind of match up. And then if you look at the ring, it's got some writing in some different areas here. And so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to align it so that they all match as well. And again, I've got my KMCs top and bottom, and that's pretty well lined up. Now this is where you're going to want to get comfy because you're going to be sitting here for a bit. So all these bolts, I like to put them on with NICs. Main reason being is they're going to go through mud, they're going to go through water, snow, whatever. So they're going to have every opportunity for corrosion. And if you get beadlock bolts that get rusted in or corroded in, they can be a pain to take out, and they can damage the wheel. It won't necessarily damage the wheel, but they can. So I like to do NICs and just kind of extra peace of mind. Make sure everything's going to come back apart when I need to. Now start tightening them all down. You'll hear some people say do a crisscross pattern, some people say do a star pattern. I don't know, I do kind of a star pattern. So one trick that I like to do is you can use a Sharpie. I just use some blue tape. Mark the bolts that you're going to do. So I'll mark the two that are completely opposite of each other, and then I'll mark the two that are 90 degrees off of that. And that just kind of gives me some points of reference as I'm going around, as I'm going crazy, because I've been doing this for so long, just tightening things. It gives me a point of reference so that I know which ones I'm starting on, which ones I should be finishing on, and it just kind of helps out. Now, for tightening, you'll see people all the time using an impact. There's nothing wrong with using an impact, and I'm going to use the impact. But you just have to remember, impacts, if you can figure out what the torque spec is on them, when they start doing the rugged duggas, what torque setting is that actually? A lot of them, I've been told, are kind of in the 18 foot-pound range, roughly. So I don't like to just rip them down with this. I'll use this to really get started, and then I'll use my torque wrench to do the final torquing on it. But again, I'll do my crisscross pattern to make sure I'm getting everything how I need to get it. So now when it comes to torquing bolts, you want to make sure that you're reading the instructions. That's never any fun, right? And you want to see what it tells you that you're actually supposed to torque them to. The KMCs are nice because they actually give you both a dry and a wet or a lubricated torque setting. Again, because I put that NIC on there, that's acting as a lubricant. So I'm going to change the torque setting from what the standard setting is on that. But they give you that information. I think they tell you like 25% of what the actual number is. And the other thing too is verify what size bolts yours have. A lot of beadlocks will do a 7/16 bolt. These are 3/8 bolts. I had others that are 3/8 as well. But different size bolts are going to have a different torque setting as well. So make sure that you know what to put together. And I'll usually try and bring these things down kind of slowly. I'll use my impact on there to get them down so that it's pulled down, the ring's pulled down nicely, but it's not pinched weird or anything. Because as you pull it down, you'll actually see, you'll do the first couple here, and then move on and move on and move on. And then the first couple that you did, there actually will be a decent gap. So that ring is going to kind of twist and lay down. So you want to make sure that it's sitting nice and flat when you start to torque the thing. So again, I'll kind of start with the impact to get it laid down a bit, get it down nice and flat, and then after it's flat, then I'll start torquing it. I started with 10 foot-pounds, now I'm doing 20 foot-pounds. On these, I'm going to do a total of 25 foot-pounds. And yeah, I'm just going to do it incrementally. So I'll do 10, 20, then I'll finish it at 25. When I get to 25, I'm going to have to do it a couple of times because as I go around, it's going to, again, it'll pull down in one area, and it'll loosen it up in another area. It doesn't loosen it, but because it pulls the ring down, it makes it so that the bolt previous may have a little bit extra that it needs to come down. So just taking your time. Like I said, it's not a fast task, but it's not difficult. Everything's finally torqued down. The only thing left is to add some air to this sucker and get that inner bead to seat. There you have it. Not super difficult, and it probably took me all of about half hour, maybe 45 minutes per tire, but it's not that bad. Just take your time, pay attention to the specs that the manufacturer recommends on their wheels. Make sure that you get all the right parts on there, all the right torque specs, all that stuff, and they hold up real well. I always like to recheck all my bolts, kind of like with the wheel. After you bolt the wheel on, retorque the lug nuts after, 500 miles or something like that. Same thing with the beadlock rings. I'll check them periodically, and usually after the first time, I don't have any issues with them backing off. So drop a comment below. What wheels do you like? I like race lines. I've done alphas. I think they're out of business now. Been happy with these KMC so far, but done a handful of Humvee wheels as well. But what ones do you like? What do you like to slap onto your rig? But give us a like, comment, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.